Why did he say these things to you?
The Mystery Woman. And then, Home Sweet Home.
Your skill is bull.
We're putting the real in real estate with realtors where nothing's off limits. Your drawers, your drugs, even your bed.
They just had sex on it.
When a house's virtual tour turns into a sex tape.
We hired him to sell the house, and this is what he's doing in it.
Love Shack. Plus, forget the neighbor from hell. We've got an entire town harassing a couple with car horns day and night.
We're being tortured by this.
But why?
Beep your horn one time, he'll take you to court.
Just trying to make our town look like a bunch of idiots.
Honking mad. And has a contractor ever left you in the lurch?
The last time I saw him was when the last check got sent.
Then watch this team that's out to make things right with a custom-crafted sting operation.
You're in big trouble.
Catch a contractor. Tonight, there's no place like Home Sweet Home. Here's David Muir and Elizabeth Vargas.
Good evening. Tonight we begin here with that ABC News exclusive. Just a short time ago, the woman at the center of a firestorm answering questions for the first time about the owner of the LA Clippers, Donald Sterling.
She was the one who recorded him making racist comments. How she explains it in a moment, but first, who is she? That young mystery woman hiding behind the visor, the woman involved with a billionaire, nearly 50 years her senior.
Daily skate every day like this.
Just one block? You have seen her all week, skating in front of her house with that odd visor covering her face.
You guys want some water?
We're exiting a restaurant espousing presidential aspirations.
One day I will become president of the United States of America.
Who is she? She is 31-year-old V.Stiviano, the woman often at Sterling's side at Clipper games, nearly 50 years his junior. On Instagram, she calls herself an artist, lover, and philanthropist. But it was that Instagram account that got her into hot water with Sterling when she posted that picture of herself with Magic Johnson. Sterling's anger at Stiviano, part of that now famous recording.
Why are you taking pictures with minorities? Why?
What's wrong with minorities?
That bothers me a lot that you want to broadcast that you're associating with black people.
Stiviano says she's half black, half Latina. Her name was Maria Vanessa Perez until 2010 when she legally changed it because she says she felt she hadn't, quote, yet been fully accepted because of my race. In the recording, despite Sterling's anger, Stiviano tries to make peace.
Here you go, honey. A little bit of juice, baby.
Thank you, Eddie.
Honey, if it makes you happy, I will remove all of the black people from my Instagram.
Donald Sterling has allegedly showered Ms. Stiviano with gifts, including a $1.8 million duplex, this Ferrari, 2 Bentleys, and he threw in an extra $240,000 to cover living expenses. But Sterling is still married to the same woman he married 57 years ago. Seen here next to Stiviano, the 80-year-old Mrs. Sterling wants those gifts back. So to get them back, Shelley Sterling filed a lawsuit in March against the other woman who met her husband at a Super Bowl game in 2010. The lawsuit alleges Stiviano engages in conduct designed to target, seduce, cajole, and/or receive as gifts transfers of wealth from wealthy older men. But Shelley Sterling still joined her husband for dinner earlier this week, defending him to the paparazzi.
Are you a racist, Mr. Sterling?
No, of course not.
Are you a racist? The accusations, are they true?
Oh, forget it. It's not true.
Well, you just heard the wife. Now the other woman. Tonight, V.Stiviano is talking. Why did she record Donald Sterling? Is he a racist? And just what is their relationship?
Barbara Walters asking those very questions tonight, and she joins us now from Los Angeles. Barbara?
David and Elizabeth, it has been such a roller coaster day. We met with Donald Sterling and V.Stiviano, who describes herself as his personal assistant, several times. Both agreed to speak to me, and then it went back and forth and back and forth. Finally, Donald Sterling decided not to be interviewed, but his companion, the woman you have seen with a visor, she did speak to me. So here is that interview with V.Stiviano. Ms. Stiviano, you just left Donald Sterling. What is his state of mind right now?
Confused. I think he feels very alone, not truly supported by those around him, tormented, emotionally traumatized.
You were with him, so he's not alone.
I'm with him in a state of where I want to help him, urging him to come to his own rescue. But even so, I think he feels that he's alone.
You say that Donald Sterling is emotionally traumatized. From what?
From everything, from everyone, from the media, from his peers, from his fellow employees, from his acquaintances. He's hurt. I think he's highly more traumatized and hurt by the things that he said himself. I think he can't even believe or understand sometimes the things he says, and I think he's hurt by it. He's hurting right now.
Do you think that Donald Sterling should apologize?
Absolutely.
Did you discuss this with him?
Yes.
Will he apologize?
Only God knows.
Can you tell me what your relationship with Donald Sterling is?
I'm Mr. Sterling's right-hand arm, man. I'm Mr. Sterling everything. I'm his confidant, his best friend, his silly rabbit.
His what?
His silly rabbit.
His silly rabbit?
Yes.
Is that what he calls you?
No,
That's
I
what
call myself that.
I see, okay.
I joke around and I make him laugh. I do things that some people find very silly, or I do things that sometimes people can understand our relationship. I'm his everything. Our relationship started off me working for Mr. Sterling and his nonprofit organization, the Donald T. Sterling Foundation, and it's evolved to so much more, on a level in which it's become a big scandal.
Scandalous?
No, on a level which it became a big scandal.
It became a scandal?
Yes.
Yeah, why?
I think God has its purpose, and I wish I could answer that question sometimes. And I keep asking myself, how and why? But the truth is that how and why doesn't even matter anymore. It's here. And some things needed to be brought to the light. And I think sometimes we're forced into situations, into circumstances in which we have to choose to do good by. And everything and everyone is a test. And I think Mr. Sterling is being tested right now by a higher power or being. And I'm forced to come to his rescue because he can rescue himself.
Are you in love with Donald Sterling?
I love him.
I'm not sure that's what I asked. Are you in love?
No, I'm not in love.
You love him what? Like a friend?
I love him
romance?
I love him like a father figure.
Like a father?
I love him just like a father figure.
Donald Sterling is in his 80s. You are in your 30s?
Yes, I'm 31.
And you're a beautiful young woman. So I'm not sure that I understand the relationship.
Well, I'm Mr. Sterling's personal assistant.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, I'm his right hand. I'm his wingman. What isn't there to understand?
Well, let me ask this. Do you and Donald Sterling have a financial arrangement? You say you're his assistant. Does he pay you?
Yes.
He pays you as an employee?
He doesn't have me. He at first started paying me as an employee, and then he started paying me off the books.
Off the books?
Yes.
People have seen you walking with a visor. Why the visor?
I'm hurting. I'm in pain. It hurts to see someone that you care about hurting. It hurts to see people speculate, assume, say, throw darts at you when they don't know you, when they don't know your story, when they don't know the truth, all based on hearsay and assumptions. It hurts. It's easier to mask the pain.
If you wear the visor, you can hide your face and hide the pain. This is a question that I ask very often, but it seems to me so appropriate now. What's the biggest misconception about you?
That I'm a mistress or a whore or a woman of the night. And all those misconceptions are just on my Instagram, I think, or it's speculations of not real journalists doing their job, asking the wrong people information about me that they don't know or have real facts.
Well, so many of you weighing in already. Tweet us right now. We're online. Use the hashtag ABC2020. And when we come back here tonight, more of Barbara's interview with the woman at the center of this firestorm with perhaps the biggest question of all.
That's right. The question is the owner of the LA Clippers, Donald Sterling, a racist. V.Stiviano weighs in on that when we come back. Now we continue with more of Barbara Walters' exclusive interview with V.Stiviano, the woman who's hiding behind that visor no more.
And of course, the big question remains, did he mean what he said on those recordings? Does V.Stiviano believe that the owner of that team is a racist? Here again, Barbara Walters.
Is Donald Sterling a racist?
No, I don't believe it in my heart.
Have you heard him say derogatory things about minorities in general and blacks in particular?
Absolutely.
You've heard him say derogatory things?
Yes.
Don't they sound racist to you?
I think the things he says are not what he feels. Anyone can say anything in the heat of the moment.
Not everybody makes alleged racist remarks in the heat of the moment. Sometimes in the heat of the moment you say things
that you mean.
That you mean.
Or that you feel.
Yeah. Explain how he says these things.
I think Mr. Sterling's from a different generation than I am. I think he was brought up to believe those things.
What things?
Segregation, whites and blacks, minorities, from black Jews to light Jews to dark Jews.
Black Jews?
Yes.
So it's not just blacks, it's anti-Semitism he expresses, but he's Jewish.
But through his actions, he's shown that he's not a racist. Through his actions, he's shown to be a very generous and kind man. If he was a real racist, then why would he help the world the way that he has? I think he was overwhelmed by the situation. He was overwhelmed by the phone calls.
The situation in which he said derogatory things about blacks?
No, I think he was overwhelmed by the phone calls of many negative people calling him, all these naysayers.
About you?
About me.
I see, okay.
And
in other words, friends of his were saying bad things about you.
Yes.
Why is he with you?
They couldn't understand. Now here's a very powerful man, part of the 1% in which most people read about.
He's very rich.
Yes.
Yep.
And no one understands why Mr. Sterling has this young girl around him. Why?
Well, there is 50 years difference in your age.
No one understood why I wouldn't allow Mr. Sterling to speak with certain people or have meetings with certain people, or no one understood that. And all of the people that were involved with him in real estate or business or board meetings, there were certain things that I wouldn't allow Mr. Sterling to say that can hurt him. And I became part of Mr. Sterling's team. I became someone who protected him, someone who took care of him, someone who watched everything he said and did. And people did not like that. People were used to Mr. Sterling being Mr. Sterling. And here comes the V, and everything changed.
So you helped him become a better person?
In every way. In every way.
I want to go through some of the things that he has said and get your comment on them. He said to you about black people, you can sleep with them, you can bring them in, you can do whatever you want. I just ask you not to promote it, not to bring them to my games. Why not?
There is a point in time where I have the leniency and the liberty to bring whomever I want as his right hand. I get the perks of doing whatever I want for the most part when it comes to the NBA team. And a lot of people were jealous of that. A lot of executive and board of directors for the Clippers organization did not like that. So having that freedom, Mr. Sterling allowed me to bring whomever I wanted. And on occasions when Mr. Sterling wasn't there and I was attending the games, people would call him and tell him that I brought a certain amount of people and that they look like a certain way.
Black people?
Well, not just black people.
Well, he said you can sleep with them, you can bring them in, you can do whatever you want. He was not just talking about black people, he was talking about anybody you brought?
I think he was generalizing. I think the focus of the subject at that time was just black people. But I think he referred to everyone, not just black people, when he made that statement.
Well, it's a little
confusing.
Yes, because he says, the little I ask you is not to promote it, not to bring them to my games. Them talking about
those people that didn't give me a good look. People that were perceived based on the calls and the assumptions these other individuals were making to Mr. Sterling. They would say negative things like V brought gangsters, or V was hanging out with thugs, or V was hanging around with bad women or with fat women. Just, it wasn't only men, it was also women. Part of the audio in which the world heard was only 15 minutes. There's a number of other hours that the world doesn't know.
In one of your recorded conversations with Sterling, you said, I wish I could change the color of my skin.
I was being cynical and sarcastic.
I see.
I wanted to get him to see what he was doing to me, what he was doing to himself. A lot of the times I would overemphasize and be cynical because he just didn't get it. He couldn't understand my views or the views of those around us. And I would have to paint that picture to him in color with words.
So you are, as I've said, you are half black and half Mexican, and you were very close to Donald Sterling.
Yes.
You do not consider him a racist?
No.
No. Do you think he should apologize?
Absolutely.
Do you think he will apologize?
Only God knows.
There are so many facets to this fascinating story: race, power, and wealth, the least of which is the nature of the relationship between this beautiful woman and the billionaire, Donald Sterling.
Barbara Walters with that exclusive interview tonight. Barbara, thank you from Los Angeles. And we want to know what you think at home. Elizabeth and I have been reading these tweets. A lot of strong opinions out there. Tweet us online. Use the hashtag ABC2020.
And when we come back, we're going to switch gears pretty dramatically. We've all had a contractor horror story or a real estate nightmare. What are some brokers really doing in your home? Well, cameras are catching it all, and boy, have you got to see this.
Coming up, we're putting the real in real estate with realtors where nothing's off limits. Your drawers, your drugs, even your bed.
They just had sex on it.
When a house's virtual tour turns into a sex tape.
We hired him to sell the house, and this is what he's doing in it.
Love Shack. When 2020 continues.
Tonight, a stunning look inside the world of real estate. You trust your broker with the keys to your home, but what happens when you look the other way?
So many Americans looking to put their homes on the market, Elizabeth, with spring finally here. But who do you pick to sell your most prized possession? Tonight, brand new meaning to the term open house. The realtor caught on camera doing more than just showing that master bedroom. Here's Deborah Roberts.
I've been in your house when you weren't home. And yours. And yours. No, I'm not a burglar. I'm a realtor.
Phil Dunphy in ABC's Modern Family may be an honest guy, but in real life, real estate agents are more complicated.
A real estate agent on house arrest.
Realtor accused of a despicable crime.
Stealing.
They've been caught all over the country. In Washington,
Palm Beach County,
Scottsdale.
Stealing jewelry in Arizona, pilfering prescription meds in Florida, in homes they're supposed to be selling. And watch this, a Maryland realtor caught red-handed on surveillance tape rifling through a woman's drawers, pocketing undergarments.
To have somebody come in and do these kind of acts or steal your things, it's an ultimate violation of trust, in my opinion.
Realtor Brendan DeSimone is the author of Next Generation Real Estate.
How do you pick a realtor? How do you know who you can trust?
Ask for a referral from friends and family. Hey, you got to really check their character. What kind of person are they? Just because they've done a lot of deals doesn't mean they're really trustworthy.
Rich Weiner would find out the hard way. He caught his realtor behaving badly in one of the most jaw-dropping cases ever.
This is my marital bed. They just had sex on it. They're naked, walking around the room. And it's like, this is just incredible.
Do you remember your first reaction when you saw this?
Yeah, I was like, are you blanking kidding me? This is like insane. We hired him to sell the house, and this is what he's doing in it.
He is Bob Lindsay.
I'm here with Bob Lindsay. How you doing, Bob? Very well, thanks.
A top New Jersey Caldwell Banker real estate agent, Rich, trusted him to sell his cherished home.
We love this house. It's a cool English Tudor, a lot of great memories.
How did you decide upon Bob Lindsay as your real estate agent?
He was a great guy, very personable, 35 years experience. He taught ethics. It's like, wow, we hit the jackpot.
In fact, Rich and Sandy were happy to roll the dice when they say Lindsay suggested they go big in their asking price.
Between $550 and $5.
How much had you paid for it?
$250.
So that would be a great profit.
Yes.
In the listing, Lindsay plays up the house's character and charm, the updated master bath and kitchen, and wood-burning fireplace. The Weiners assume their agent is working hard to reel in a buyer.
And so you had all confidence that that was happening?
Absolutely. We trusted him with everything.
The Weiners had such faith in Lindsay, they say they went out on a limb, buying and moving into a new home while their Tudor was renovated to fetch top dollar. And for peace of mind, they made sure the home on the market was secured.
You decided to equip the house with motion-activated cameras.
Yes.
Why?
We're very security conscious, so we always keep on our wired alarm system. We were told by Bob that, hey, you know, with realtor traffic, you can't keep that system on because realtors are going to be setting off alarms throughout the neighborhood left and right.
So with the alarm turned off at their realtor's request, but the motion-activated cameras turned on, Sandy Weiner happened to be looking at the live feed of the camera at their vacant house one night and got the shock of her life.
She comes racing up the stairs, and she's like, oh my God, the house is being broken into. She calls 911, and the Wayne police responded almost immediately.
The Weiners were glued to their screen as officers arrived in the darkened house.
What you're going to see here is one of the policemen coming into the room. There he is now.
There's the officer.
He's got his flashlight, and Bob Lindsay is getting dressed.
The couple was thoroughly confused, until, that is, they hit the rewind button, and Rich says he discovered weeks' worth of X-rated videos starring their realtor, Bob Lindsay, and this woman. Watch them covering their tracks, making the bed following a daytime romp. In fact, Rich says his camera caught them 13 times having sexual encounters over a period of 7 weeks. After this makeout session, they suddenly become aware of the camera.
Here, they're looking right up at the kitchen camera.
They certainly don't seem to be worried or concerned that they may be caught.
Not at all, which is the amazing part about all this.
So who was the mystery woman in Bob Lindsay's embrace? She's Jean Marie Phelan, a fellow Coldwell Banker real estate agent who later admitted to a 3-year affair with Lindsay.
These two people clearly screwed up.
Yes.
Is it worth humiliating them, hurting their families, and basically airing dirty laundry in public?
Their families were already aware of the affair.
What really outrages Weiner is the breach of trust. He's now suing Bob Lindsay, Jean Marie Phelan, and Coldwell Banker.
My clients gave Coldwell Banker the keys to their house, and those keys and that house were abused in the process. So we're suing really for a breach of trust, breach of contract, negligence, invasion of privacy.
Coldwell Banker denied our request for an interview but offered a statement saying, "We ceased our affiliation with the agents. The conduct at the home does not in any way represent how we conduct business as a company." The sordid real estate saga soon hit the news, as Bob Lindsay discovered.
I wanted to ask you a couple of questions about the home that you were hired to sell.
No comment. No comment. Thank you.
Lindsay and Jean Marie Phelan both declined on-camera interviews, but Lindsay's lawyers sent us this statement. Although my client entered their home on occasion for purposes that were unauthorized, the balance of the Weiners' claims are either false and or exaggerated and can and will be exposed by clear and irrefutable evidence. Lindsay and Phelan are countersuing the Weiners, claiming they attempted to extort $1 million or they'd give the compromising material to the media.
My clients never asked for a dime from either Mr. Lindsay or Miss Phelan. There was no extortion attempt. There was nothing like that.
And remember that juicy asking price of just over $500,000? Well, the home on Maple Avenue eventually went for $419,000, $100,000 less than Lindsay said he could get.
He overpriced the house to keep the traffic away so he could use the house. He was going to make money selling the house, but just not today. He can use it as a cheap motel today, sell it tomorrow.
Do you think that person should still be practicing?
Absolutely not. That person should lose their license immediately. They shouldn't be allowed to enter anybody's home ever.
What would you say if I told you that Bob Lindsay is still selling homes with another firm?
That's the most shocking part of this entire story, that he's still selling real estate.
Next, why are all these cars honking their horns non-stop? A policeman, a fireman, even the mortician. Because of this man and his battle to buy this house.
It's called menacing by stalking.
Driving him out or just driving him nuts? When Home Sweet Home returns.
We've all had nasty neighbors, but an entire town? Think how annoyed you get when just one person honks at you. Now imagine all your neighbors driving by sitting on that horn 24/7. Are they tormenting one family, or did that family wear out its welcome? We want you to decide. Here's Paula Ferris.
Of all the homes in Hubbard, Ohio, it might be the last one you'd expect folks to fight over. But this vacant house on East Liberty Street is the hottest property since good old Nehemiah Hubbard founded the town 200 years ago. Oh, what a fuss over a little fixer-upper.
This all started in 2007 over a simple real estate deal, correct?
Right. It was the property next door here.
Meet Rick and Cindy Kurlich, longtime Hubbard residents. They say all they wanted was to buy the property next door. The only problem? It wasn't for sale. These folks, John and Marlene Clementi, had inherited half the house. The other half was tied up in court. But Rick Kurlich tried to buy it anyway, even though it had been in the Clementi family for generations.
I says, well, you're not getting my land. And I said, that's not right. It's my family since 1922. How could you do that?
The Clement family called me up and they told me to take my bid off the table. And if I didn't take my bid off the table, we'd be bitter enemies for life.
Rick never got the house, but he says he's still paying for what he did. As the town fire chief, Clementi had lots of friends, and suddenly Rick and Cindy say it seemed like every single one of them was driving by honking the horn, and it wasn't to say hello.
The Clement family conspired together to organize a horn-blowing campaign against us. That's really what this is all about.
Ask not for whom the horn blows. It blows for Rick and Cindy Kurlich.
In the beginning, it was 100 times a day.
100 times a day.
100.
So they began planning their payback. Their house now bristles with expensive surveillance cameras. As we were looking them over, just watch what happened.
The last camera is down here on the tree.
Okay. Oh, somebody just honked their horn. Did you hear that?
Yeah, it's never
Was that
ending.
a friendly honk?
Probably not.
Okay.
Rick says his ear is now finally attuned.
Do certain makes and models have a particular sound?
Yes. You can tell an import horn from a domestic horn.
Who are these horn blowers? Not just people in the town, but people who work for the town. Firefighters, including some from the department John Clemente ran, and police. Here's one of Hubbard Township's finest, not serving, not protecting, just honking. It's enough to wake the dead. This hearse caught 10 times. And would you look at this? The horn on the bus goes. An education for Hubbard's next generation of horn blowers. Rick and Cindy renamed their dining room the evidence room.
Wow.
There's more in the basement.
There's hundreds and hundreds of photographs and discs and stuff here.
You're like a detective. So when did people start blowing the horns? Were you recruiting people, telling them to get this guy out of town?
That's what he tells everybody.
John says he can explain everything. His son's girlfriend and some of her friends would occasionally blow the horn, but he says that was just their way of saying goodbye.
When they would leave the house, the girls would toot the horn just to let them know they're leaving.
A little toot? Yeah, Rick says, like this car leaving the Clementes' driveway at 4 in the morning.
Does the city of Hubbard have a horn blowing epidemic?
An epidemic? No. We do have a problem in one particular area.
We patrolled around town with the police chief, Jim Tafe.
At some point, people began blowing horns, but it became clear at another point that on occasion it was used to harass the person that lived there.
Kurlich began taking horn blowers to court. He says he got orders of protection against more than a dozen people, and he didn't stop there. He started suing. Somebody beeps, Rick sues. Beep, sue. At the Trumbull County Courthouse, the legal paperwork is piling up. Rick is now suing no fewer than 40 alleged hornblowers, including the Clementes.
This isn't my job, and I don't want to do this, and I'm sad that I have to.
Kurlich versus everybody.
It seems like the town of Hubbard is against the Kurliches, and everybody's in on it now.
Why wouldn't you be against them?
If you beep your horn one time, he'll take you to court. Just a regular beep.
Does the city of Hubbard want the Kurliches to leave?
I believe so.
Do you think you've made matters worse?
We don't know how else to stop it.
We knew it was a long shot, but we asked both sides if they would consider mediation.
We would love it for it to stop, but how do you get everybody in Hubbard to come to a meeting and say stop?
Now there's a thought, get everybody in Hubbard to come to a meeting.
I don't know.
Oh yeah, Rick, that's just what we're gonna do. It's the 2020 Barbecue Peace Summit.
Yeah, all right.
But will the warring parties or anyone else bother to show up? Find out when we come back.
"2020 continues. Once again, Paula Ferris.
Which is the real Hubbard, Ohio? The peaceful city that claims to be the official home of the nicest people? Or the horn-blowing bedlam captured on Rick and Cindy Kurlich's surveillance cameras?
This is some stalking.
Has it become a living hell for you?
Yes.
Oh, absolutely.
Definitely.
They say horn-blowing bullies are ruining their lives.
How do you get out of the situation?
We really don't know.
Former Judge Billy Columbaro says she knows how it might be solved.
Well, we're on our way to see Mr. Kurlich and Cindy.
On a gray and rainy Friday, she came to Hubbard to try to mediate the noisy feud. The minivan diplomacy begins at the Kurliches.
Hello.
Hi there.
I'm Rick.
The judge says mediation has a better chance without cameras.
All right, guys, you can leave. Out of here.
3 hours later, Judge Billy emerges with a slice of coconut cake, but no deal.
He's thinking about it. That's a good first step.
Next up, the Clementis, the people Rick and Cindy say organized the horn-blowing harassment in the first place.
Hi.
Another marathon session, but at the end of the day,
My assessment is they're just not ready for mediation at this point.
it looks pretty hopeless. But the next day, clear skies and a new plan. 2020 throwing a peace and reconciliation barbecue, complete with banners, balloons, and burgers. We even hired a classical guitar quartet and an a cappella group, hoping their harmonies will inspire.
We all just arrived on the scene. We got about an hour before everyone starts arriving.
We've invited the entire town with full-page newspaper ads. It was a big story.
A national news magazine is back in the Valley today, trying to help resolve the horn-honking harassment case in Hubbard.
Cheeseburger's ready. Who had the cheeseburger?
There you go.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
You think we're going to come to a happy medium over hot dogs and hamburgers today?
We sure hope so.
It's between two people, and the whole city's involved.
Yeah. Now it makes us all look like idiots.
We do want to welcome you to the Hubbard, Ohio Peace and Reconciliation Barbecue.
The big question, the Clementis and the Kurliches. If they don't show up, the Peace and Reconciliation Barbecue is a bust. We heard conflicting reports. They were coming, they weren't coming. And then, surprise, suddenly there they were, John and Marlene Clementi. And then we got word Rick and Cindy Kurlich were on their way.
I think it's a little bit overwhelming, I think, for both of us.
And there they were, in the same place at the same time for the first time in years. Not counting courtrooms.
Are you nervous?
Well, we don't know who's here. We'll see what happens.
For a moment, we thought we had a breakthrough. The Kurliches representative, Vic Rubenstein, confronts the Clementis attorney, Jim Wise, insisting they go ahead with mediation.
Can we hear that from Mr. Clementi's mouth? He's ready to mediate?
My clients have always been willing to mediate.
Well, then let's get it on.
But is he willing to compromise?
That is up to him. I can't answer that.
First and foremost,
The lawyers for both sides made brief statements, but the Kurliches and Clementis themselves spent the Peace and Reconciliation Barbecue avoiding each other. Here are John and Marlene. Rick and Cindy are way over there. But we did accomplish this. We got people talking and, better yet, listening. Kelsey Stafford admits her fiancé was a serial horn blower. She says he's